President Trump now wrapping up that meeting at the White House with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, a meeting that could not come at a more consequential time.
The future of the Middle East and the peace process is riding on decisions made by this new administration in Washington. The two leaders expected to hold a news conference in just a few minutes. We'll wait for that. In the meantime, let's go to political reporter Marcia Kramer with more on today's developments. Marcia.
Well, Christine and Jessica, the importance of this meeting is underscored by the fact that the Israeli Prime Minister is the first foreign leader to meet with President Trump since his inauguration. Both men have a lot riding on it. Netanyahu touched on some of the key issues as he left Israel for the United States.
In this meeting, we'll deal with important issues, critical issues facing Israel and our region. A victory over Hamas, achieving the release of all our hostages.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arrived at the White House to meet with a president who will have to oversee the remaining phases of the ceasefire agreement with Hamas and deal with the question of whether it will hold. Asked about that at a bill signing yesterday, President Trump had this to say.
I have no assurances that it'll hold. I mean, I've seen people brutalized. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. No, I have no guarantees that the peace is going to hold.
But Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff was a bit more optimistic.
It's holding so far. So, and we're certainly hopeful, and that's the president's direction. Get the hostages out and save lives and come to hopefully a peaceful settlement of it all.
But the Israeli Prime Minister has made it clear he has set his sights on a wide range of issues, from weapon sales to normalization of relations with Saudi Arabia, and possibly convincing the president to okay a direct strike on Iran's nuclear reactors. Netanyahu made it clear that Iran is on the agenda.
Dealing with the Iranian terror axis and all its components, an axis that threatens the peace of Israel, the Middle East, and the entire world.
Iranians are urging Trump to resist Netanyahu's gambit. The National Iranian-American Council saying, quote, if Donald Trump wants to put America first, he must understand that Bibi will do whatever it takes to sabotage diplomatic efforts with Iran. And rather than allowing Bibi to move America against its interests, he must order Bibi to stand down. Before the meeting with Netanyahu, the president signed an executive order reimposing sanctions on Iran. He said he hoped to negotiate a deal with Iran so the sanctions wouldn't be necessary, but he said he thought that one thing was absolutely clear to him.
They cannot have a nuclear weapon. With me, it's very simple. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. We don't want to be tough on Iran. We don't want to be tough on anybody, but they just can't have a nuclear weapon.
Now, the president was also asked if he would give Netanyahu the green light to strike Iran's reactors. Trump said he didn't know if Netanyahu would ask that, saying, quote, I'll let you know when the time comes to let you know, but right now, it's not something I can discuss. Now, the meeting could also be a key diplomatic moment for the president. He has reportedly expressed a desire to win the Nobel Peace Prize. And there you have it.
Yeah, a lot of people watching this meeting very closely because the second phase is so fragile in the ceasefire deal right now.
I know, and a lot of people are worried that it may break down before it happens.
Right. All right.
Thank you, Marcia. And as we mentioned, we're closely awaiting for the president and the prime minister to take the podium in our nation's capital. And when that happens, we will bring it to you live.
Hostage families here in the U.S. and around the world are watching today's Oval Office meeting closely. Some credit President Trump for ensuring the current ceasefire went through. And now they want him to bring the rest of the hostages home as he and Netanyahu hammer out the next phase of the fragile ceasefire deal.
I'm just here in Washington, D.C. to have them remember that, indeed, we're still waiting for them to finish the job.
For 487 days, Brooklyn father Ruby Chen has fought tirelessly to bring his son Itai home from Hamas captivity. What do you hope President Trump says to Benjamin Netanyahu today?
There needs to be a understanding that President Trump needs to prioritize U.S. interests, which is stability in the Middle East, and he should not care about the problems of the prime minister that might have in internal domestic politics.
Chen is in Washington ahead of today's Oval Office meeting between President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, imploring the president to stay focused on U.S. interests.
One of the main superpowers of the Prime Minister Netanyahu is turning his problems into your problems. And I am positive that President Trump, as a very skilled negotiator, will be able to focus on what are the interests of the United States and not need to solve the Prime Minister's problems. The people of the United States should be shocked or disappointed is that the United States citizens have not been front-ended into this deal and not in the previous deal. And I think we should all be disappointed that despite the fact that the United States has put so much equity into this, that its citizens are not being prioritized.
Since the latest ceasefire deal took effect, Israel has released hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. In exchange, Hamas has released 18 hostages, but only one American. 6 Americans remain. Israelis are also holding out hope that today's meeting will bring the rest of the hostages home, including Aviv Siegel, whose husband Keith is the only American released as part of the latest hostage exchange.
The world watches, and we believe in your leadership to end the suffering.
We hope that Trump will help the nation of Israel, that will get the rest of the hostages released.
And hostage families tell me they want every hostage returned, regardless of their physical conditions, meaning even those who Hamas claims have died in captivity.
And here is some video that we just received into our newsroom of the two leaders meeting just moments ago in the Oval Office. They are expected to hold a news conference at any minute now. And once again, we'll, of course, bring that to you live when it happens. In the